Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight, we got a great show for you with my co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Welcome to episode 110 to start out the brand new year of 2024.
Happy New Year to all y'all humans out there. And we greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And we hope that this year will be a good one for all y'all out there. We're looking forward to another year of doing this, I guess.
Yep, that's right.
Put it together, right? Let's do her. Get her done.
Get her done, that's right. As you can tell by my background, looks like potatoes, doesn't it? Yeah, it is. It's potatoes. And you think,
taters.
Why are you talking about taters on an Indian show? We're supposed to be doing Native American myths and legends, and that's what we're doing. The legend of the potato. Now, that almost sounds too funny to be real, doesn't it?
The legend of the tater.
Oh, yeah. Hey, and there's James Ocker. Hey, look at that. He's watching. I know that guy. Anyway, he's going to find this fascinating. Tonight, we're going to be talking about those fabulous tubers that you can boil, bake, fry, mash. You can make potato chips out of them. You can have French fries. You can make them all kinds of ways because you know why? Because your mother made them that way. And if your mother
don't forget tater salad.
Yeah. And if your mother didn't make them that way, I'm sure that you did. So we're going to do this. We're going to share the screen because I'm getting hungry and I'm going to say, look at that. Doesn't everybody like a big, nice potato with all that good stuff on it? This is oops, wrong one. Hit the wrong button there. I gotta make the file, but anyway, so welcome to our little friend, the potato. Isn't that nice? So
that's like Mr. Potato Head.
That's right. Mr. Potato Head is joining us tonight. So, what's the story behind potatoes? Well, there is a story behind potatoes. Believe it or not. We grew up with potatoes, and my mic seems low. Yes, okay, maybe I have to change it. Does my mic seem low? I'm going to have to change the audio. Mic blaster.
In French, it's pomme de terre. It's apple of the earth. I could hear you just fine. I can't hear you now. Now it's way too low.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go with that one.
Just go with that one. It sounds good here.
Okay, well, we'll go with that.
Turn your sound up on the other end.
That's right. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But, that's my speakers. Anyway, I'm going to go with that one and leave it because obviously that's the way it's going. But anyway, we're going to go to the potato. We all grew up with potatoes, but they were not native to European countries where they were eating wheat, cabbage, things like that. I mean, they must have had a really piss poor diet over there, because when they got to Americas, they had corn and they had potatoes, squash, beans, all these good things that they just didn't have. And the Native Americans were eating them up. So we're going to go with this. Look at this of course, from Wikipedia. Don't go there for your information. Always search around, but this was pretty good. The potato was first domesticated vegetable in the region of modern-day southern Peru. And that's why it's on our show tonight, because it is from South America. Okay, It's in the extreme northwestern Bolivia between, about 8,000 to 5,000 BC. The cultivation of the potatoes in South America will go way back 10,000 years. But these tubers do not preserve well in archaeological records because obviously, if you've ever had a potato and you kept it in your closet for a while, well, it's going to get all soft and mushy. There ain't going to be much left of it.
Can I add something though to that before you go on?
Yeah, go ahead.
The old timers down here in the South and also up in the Appalachians used to do what they called banking their potatoes, their taters.
Yeah.
And what they would do is after all of them were dug, that they would dig a pit and down one of the rows possibly, and they would line it with straw, pine straw, whatever, and then put the taters in there and put a little light straw, more taters, and cover it with dirt. And then anytime they needed one, they'd just go out there in the pile and pull out a couple of taters.
Yeah.
So, I have used that method, and it's a lot better than just putting them in your refrigerator. Because potatoes, they like being in the ground and all that. It depends on how much rain you've had and all that kind of stuff. But you can't, the old timers that is what they call banked them. They banked them. And they literally put dirt in and banked them up, So, but anyway, you can keep them for a while. Just especially during the winter time. So, but anyway, sorry about that, but it does work.
Yeah, and I think most everybody that'll be watching this show has had taters one way or another sometime in their life. There ain't too many people that don't like them. And anyway, so these things been around for thousands of years. And of course, it's hard to find the right ones. They got, how many, take a guess of how many types of potatoes there are. Bet you have no clue.
Oh, I don't know. I know of 5 or 6 offhand, but I'm sure that's not enough.
Oh gosh, you're just tip of the iceberg there. There's 5,000 varieties of potatoes. Yes. Wow. We're gonna get to some of them real soon. Okay. So anyway, they found all these potatoes in back in Peru. The Peruvians were doing. The Incas were big. Their empire flourished during because they had the potato, they had the corn. They would make things on the side of hills. You know how they lived in the Andes, the highlands, the
terraces.
Yes, the terraces. They would grow them in these gardens, and then for the long-term storage, they had things. They would turn it into chuyo, which was a dried up. They would dry the potato. It was like a freeze drying. They would dry it in the sun all day, and then they would leave it out and it would freeze at night. And they would somehow preserve these potatoes, and then they would smash them up with their feet. They would stomp them with their feet, then dance around and stomp them with their feet until they were powdery like. And then they would put these. They would make white chuño and black chuño. And after they did this, the potatoes would be free of toxins. Did you know the original potato had toxins? Yes, the potato had toxins. It was kind of like what you call it? Here, let me see. I wrote it down because I knew I would forget it. It was it had these toxins had to be neutralized. It was a thing of nightshade. It's a variety of the nightshade, but with tubers. So you don't want to eat the plant itself because it's like a nightshade. It had gluta-altoids. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Gula-altoids. And these were toxins. And they could be very dangerous if you ate these potatoes. So they found a way by mixing it with some kind of clay to neutralize the toxins, and this became a source of food. It was kind of bitter, but it was good. And then they cross-dried varieties, and eventually, and they could keep this stuff for a long time.
It sounds like it was the first iteration of powdered potatoes,
Yes,
instant
yes,
potatoes.
yes. Basically, it was instant potatoes. Okay, now the potato, it arrived in Europe sometime before the end of the 16th century, which would have been in the 1500s sometime. It first entered Spain because Columbus came over here, and what did when Columbus landed? He landed in the Caribbean over by Cuba, in that area, right? And what did Columbus bring or find there? He found a thing called a sweet potato. And now this sweet potato is not a potato. It is a totally different animal. It's a plant. It's a totally different plant. Now these tubers were grown by the natives of the islands, and these were the sweet potatoes. Now what happened was, why everybody got this confused, was the name. The name of this is patata. That's what the Indians would call a sweet potato, is patata. But when you find a potato, which we associate with a potato today, they call this a papa. So you have a patata and a papa, and the Spaniards couldn't tell the difference in the sayings. So when they brought these potatoes back, they pronounced them patatas, and they named them eventually. They became potatoes. Now, that's kind of how that went. But a potato is a tubersome. It's tuber Solanum tubers. I am not Latin. I could not pronounce these, but it's Solernium tubersomium, something like that. And it can live in high altitudes. It can live in low altitudes. You can eat it all. It grows pretty much anywhere. It'll adapt to almost anything. It lasts
Except too much water. They don't
yeah,
like wet spots.
yes, but I bet you there's a certain variety of potato that will probably live in a wet spot. We just don't know what it is because we're stuck on the russets, the reds, the purples, the yellow northern potatoes. You know what I mean? The Idaho potato. We're stuck on those main potatoes. We don't even know half the varieties of them. But a potato has a lot of vitamins, like vitamin C, iron, phosphorus, vitamin B, and potassium. Now, what do we know about these potatoes that was in a movie? This movie. Come on. This movie. Now, who remembers this movie? Who's watched this movie? Come on. This movie Matt Damon was in, The Martian. And he was in this Martian movie, and it became famous because, well, he was stuck on Mars. He was all by himself. He didn't have enough food. But what did he do? He decided to grow potatoes in his little hut. Remember that?
Yeah.
And he grew the potatoes, and he survived. And when the shelter got wrecked, he didn't have enough to grow more, but he did survive the whole thing. Look he had a little garden growing in there. And the potatoes in the Martian soil would make it through, and he would get all the vitamins and nutrients that he needed to survive for a lengthy period of time by growing these potatoes. Go figure, right? So, Then we jump over to our friendly potato head. Yes, Matt Damon. Ah, there you go. No climate change for him on Mars. Now, look at all these varieties of potatoes. Now, remember, these were all grown in Peru and Andes and Chile. And, basically it was a South American thing. It worked its way up into Central America and then even up into the Southwest. It was a wild plant, believe it or not. It was derived. There's a bunch of potatoes that grow wild. And I didn't know that potatoes used to grow wild. It was a wild plant, basically a weed. But as the potatoes changed, and we can look back, scientists have looked back and found that the potato has one common ancestor, the Solanium bucasoli, which is some kind of potato, and I don't have a picture of that. It has one wild ancestor that most of our potatoes are derived off of, even though there's 5,000 varieties. But now that we have grown the potato, domesticated it, it is vulnerable to a disease, believe it or not.
And bugs.
And disease, bugs.
Did you know? Bug. Oh,
yeah. Did you know that they spend $2 billion a year on fertilizing and bug protection and spraying potatoes? Believe it or not. Okay, Peru is home to 3,800 different types of potatoes, and they have been domesticated there some 10,000 years ago. They differ in size, shape, color, and pulp, texture, and taste. I sure myself would love to get some of those different varieties of potatoes, but I have no idea how to do that. But I'm going to try this year. So my goal now is to find other varieties of potatoes. I don't know who else in here's got a garden that's grown any of these potatoes. Give me a hands up and tell me what kind of variety that you grew as a variety of potato. Let's see here. Okay, in Bolivia, there are 1,508 varieties of potatoes. Wow, that's in Bolivia. Look at all the different kinds. Look at that. There's a purple. I've grown these purple potatoes. These are really good. They're supposed to be better for you, and I can eat a lot of these. They're really small. They don't grow really big. And here you can see by their potatoes, these aren't really huge potatoes either. But this is can you imagine being out there trying to grow your crops on the side of a hill and you're out there in this garb trying to pick the Peruvians, but they do. This is how they survive.
That's not a hill. That's a mountain.
Okay, yeah, on a mountainside.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I got a hill. They got a mountain.
That's absolutely true. Now, here's some of the different varieties. I cannot pronounce these. Here's the Corta, the Philphilium, the Yana, the Puka, the Puka Pamana, the Yada Tokyo, the Pucana Chapakia, and the Yana Moro Papa.
That's Pampina, but that one, the Puka Papina. See the little thing over the end?
Oh, yeah,
that's I see Papina. It's hard for me to see but there's Puka Chapabra.
Oh, you're way better at saying these than I am.
And Yana Piaqui.
Yeah.
It would be interesting. What I was going to say is there are, look on the internet and see, I'm sure that there are some seed companies that sell, seed potatoes.
Well, yeah. I've bought the seed potatoes before, but I mean, I didn't even know these varieties existed until I started doing the research on it.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. James does the Puka Chupacabra. I love it.
Does it get up and run across the Andes, and howl at the moon?
Maybe. Maybe. Anyway, let's go on. In 1971, the CIP has worked in partnership with the National Agriculture Innovation Institute. I didn't even know that existed. To develop improved potato varieties that combine native and introduced germ plasm. Yeah. Just 3 of the CIP bred varieties, the Chakara, I ain't even going to try those, occupy 27% of Peru's potato farming area. Unica is highly adaptable, leading it to release in several Asian and African countries. Did you know that China is the world's producer of potatoes? I didn't know that. I found that out too. This collaboration has led to the release of 34 varieties with high yields, culinary quality, and Pacific resistance and tolerance. Amazing. I never seen these type of potatoes either. I never had that variety. Look at all these here. They don't even have names. See, this one's unknown. Look at all that. Different colors. Look at here's a black potato with a yellow center. This is a yellow potato with a yellow center. A red potato with a yellow center. Another yellow potato with a yellow center. Look at these here. These look like some kind of I don't know, look like a bean of some sort. These are little round ones. Look at how little round. These are like a tube. Here, look at these. These are red with yellow and red centers. That's pretty cool. Never had seen them either. Yellow center, red with a yellow center, purple with a white center. Here's a white one with a purple center. I would love to get that. Here's a purple one with a purple and white center. Cool. There's a red one. These look like little pears, don't they? A white with a red center, a white center. Cool. Huh. Like I said, I never even knew these varieties existed. Now look at it. They do all this farming by hand. Can you imagine if thousands of years cultivating potatoes by hand like that? Oh my gosh, I mean, you know how much work it is to plant a potato?
Yep.
And then hill it? So yeah.
Yep, I do.
A lot of work to it. Look at the colors on these potatoes too. Look at these round looking, funny looking things. This one here looks almost like a carrot potato. I'd name it a carrot. But anyway, neat stuff. Neat potatoes, all from South America. We never had the idea. Now, Steve said his relatives came from Ireland, and that the potato was introduced to Ireland in the 1500s. And did you know that people didn't want to eat it? They would grow the potatoes and feed it to their animals as fodder because they thought it would give them diseases like rickets or sickness or give them the plague or something. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And in other parts of Europe, they thought it was only potatoes were only for the poor folk. So if you're a poor folk, you're gonna eat the potato. Oh yeah, off the hook is right. Totally healthy, not like the GMO crap we get from Walmart. That's for sure. I bet you these little potatoes like this have a lot more nutrition in them too. Look at that. Can you imagine going to a store and seeing all the different varieties of potatoes like this? We get the Idaho, the russets, the reds, the yellows, and and that's pretty much all we get. Once in a while, you get those little fingerlings that have some yellows and purples and reds in there, but that's about it. Look at these people. You can tell they've been growing those potatoes for a while. They're working hard at it.
Well, I tell you, there ain't nothing like when you get done when they at the end of the season when you go to dig them, because you don't see them until you dig them. You see the tops of the plant, and it's sort of like, you don't know till you get there. And it's always nice to be able to dig up a bunch of them instead of a couple of them.
That is so true. Look at that lady. She's just happy as heck growing her potato.
Yeah, buddy.
Look at all my big potatoes. Look at the big potatoes she's got. Well, those are pretty good size. She's saying,
Okay, bueno.
I'm gonna eat good this year. I'm gonna live. Here's a bunch of varieties of potatoes. Little purple ones, white ones. I don't know what they are, but maybe these are cooked ones because it looks like they got a little butter or something to put on them or something. But looks good. Now that's our sweet potato. See how the sweet potato looks kind of different.
Yep.
Now, believe it or not, these people had a potato god. Believe it or not. Hirwata Curry, and he did all kinds of crazy things, and he was he was the potato god. Believe it or not.
I wonder if when he got mad at his subjects, did he just pelt people with taters?
I don't know, but
instead of thunder and lightning, he threw potatoes.
Somewhere along the line, I'm going to have to dig up one of his stories so we can listen to the potato god stories. Because we're in North America, they always talk about coyote and raven. Well, now they have a potato guy that goes out there.
Yeah.
Ain't that interesting? Let's see.
Sort of like the squash and maize.
Yeah. So we're gonna go this. Okay. We talked about increasing popularity of food, the boiled and steamed potatoes, the tubers replace vegan soups throughout the formative period. Blah blah blah. Okay, we did uses in provided a principal energy source in the Inca Empire. Did you know that once the potato was introduced, the populations of countries that embraced the potato and could grow it increased substantially? I did not know that either. Like Ireland. Did you know that in Ireland, I found this one out. This is probably not fiction, but so anyway, so when you're in the Ireland, there was about what they said 1.5 million people living in Ireland. Once the potato was introduced, and after a number of years, the population grew to 8 million people. And then, and even today, the population's only 6 million people. So, they were living pretty good, high off the hog on those potatoes back in the day. Okay, uses, we went through this. However, it's a cash crop of the Andes people, the chuño, and created by letting the potatoes freeze overnight, allowing them to thaw in the morning, which they repeated to soften the potatoes. The farmers extracted the potatoes water, leaving them much lighter and smaller. You're right. It's like a powdered potato. This new creation was later prepared into stew, usually in addition. Among its many benefits, chuño, primary benefit was that it could be stored for years without refrigeration, which came into use, especially during the years of famine and bad harvest. Moreover, this long shelf life allowed it to be a staple food for the Incan armies due to how well it maintained its flavor and longevity. The Spanish fed chuño to the silver miners, who produced vast wealth in the 16th century for the Spanish government. Everybody takes advantage of them people, don't they? Potato was a staple food for most pre-Columbian Manchukuos, especially in the southern and coastal Machupu territories, which maize did not reach maturity. So you can't grow corn everywhere, but that's our next subject. We are going to go to the corn, because corn is our next most important crop. And who doesn't know about corn? Have you ever grown corn?
Yep.
Yes.
But you got to have a lot of it.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of corn. And
the reason you have to have a lot of a lot of corn is so that the tassels will um, um, fertilize the ends of the corn.
Yes.
So the best way to do it is to have a lot of corn. But there are some ways that you can take the spores off of the top of the corn and put it on the end of the corn husks, and it will make kernels.
Yes. Yes. Corn is an amazing with its pollen. It has a lot of pollen.
And it's a grass, by the way, too.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. Now we can trace the potato back to wild potatoes and how they grew potatoes. But corn, on the other hand, believe it or not, there is this huge controversy of where actual corn came from. The corn we have today is
The
not the
corn
corn.
maiden brought it.
That's right. That's well, and I would agree on that. The corn we have today is not the corn that they had years ago. This is a product of our interbreeding of corn, specializing in hybrid corn, and all kinds of stuff like that. Um, this is corn versus maize. Is there a difference? In North America, corn and maize both refer to the same staple grain, while maize derives from the plant's Taino name, maize. Corn is an old English word used for grains of all kinds. So corn is actually English. Maize, Haz, I guess, or maize is the Indian name. And because they didn't, probably because the Indian or the English didn't know what it was, they just called it corn because it was a thing. But anyway, and you can see by the older corns how small they are. The cobs do not get very big. You know, their corn naturally was a real. The cobs were small. The kernels were big, etc., etc. This is some old time corn types. It comes in a variety of colors, in shapes, as you can see by the Indian corn, yellow corn, but red corn, black corn, speckled corn. Um, and now our yellow corn down here is what they've bred it into, and of course we get that white corn or the candy corn. Who doesn't love candy sweet corn? Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, maize, the domestication and commonly accepted theories. Remember, when they say theories, means they don't know. Goes back and happened in the Badass River Valley of South Central Mexico around 9,000 years ago. Early farmers in this region began selecting for favorable traits of teostine, which looks very different to modern corn and is not particularly palatable. Its cob is small and it has a few kernels, are surrounded by a tough casting, kind of like yeah, it's like a bean almost. But with human intervention, the testostine evolved into a tasty, tender corn, which was subsequently carried to other parts of the Americas. By the time the European colonization of the 15th century, corn was a major source throughout many parts of the region. Okay, and it just goes into how these guys, try to figure out the evolutionary importance and the gene flow of this maize, and they had different revelations and how long they found it goes back 5,000 years or better, and they really don't know. I did that one twice. Okay. One guy suggested it came from one area, this Kister guy, whereas another guy thought it come from another area. Now they're saying they both could be right. And then but anyway, the new study analyzed the genomes of more than 100 varieties of modern maize, around 40 of which were sequenced by researchers. The team also looked at DNA of 11 ancient plants. When they mapped out genetic connections between the specimens, the researchers discovered several distinct lineages, each with their own unique relationship to teostine. Most significantly, the results revealed that although maize domestication began with a single large gene pool in Mexico, the grain was carried elsewhere before the domestication process was complete. Now, as you can see, I ain't going to read all of this, but it's talking here. Now, this one says it started 10,000 years ago in Mexico. They're trying to identify corn's wild ancestor, but as you can see in the cobs here, if we look closely, this is our more modern corn, and as you go back, the cobs get smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, it may have started out with this small, or was some other kind of thing, but the corn wasn't even tasty or good, which I don't understand. Children of the corn, I love that. Yeah, bizarre. Yeah, children of the corn. That's not what we're getting at too, but it is a scary movie. Scared the pants out of me. Off of me.
For most, I don't know how it is up north, but they have a lot of wheat up there where we didn't do wheat much down here. So the old timey folks down here grew corn, which ended up as cornmeal.
Yep.
So they only ate corn when it was ripe at the time. So other than that, it became cornmeal or mush, by the way. Okay.
Yep.
So how you eat corn, if you could shuck it off the ear in the right time of the season, other than that, then it was cornmeal.
Yeah.
Or hominy.
Hominy. Never heard of hominy. Well, I heard of hominy, but I don't know what it is. Anyway,
they soak it in lye, and it blows the kernels up. But then you can keep it. I love hominy, but
really?
Yeah. Now hominy grits, what they mean down here is grits. Not so much, but hominy. They got white corn and white hominy, but it has to do somehow. Oh, what did I say? It's an alkaline. They soak it, and the corn swells up. But anyway.
Let's see, what was I going to say? Well, anyway, with corn, back to the corn. Now, the thing is that with corn, I have a beef against corn. And this idea that these natives who couldn't figure out how to smelt metal, they had sticks and stones, they didn't do much, but yet they took up agriculture and started breeding corn, and figuring out how to pollinate it and how to, even with the potatoes, it's I can almost believe the potato thing because it did grow. It grows wild, and there's different varieties, and maybe. But when they're telling us that corn wasn't even very good to eat, and then somebody took the time to breed it and do a whole bunch of stuff with it, genetically crossbreeding it to make something that was edible. Do you believe that they had people doing this?
Yeah, because they were turning it into meal, where folks out west had more, they could bake breads. So I mean, making cornbread is like, is still a staple of the South. We had to have collard greens and black-eyed peas and cornbread yesterday, and it's a staple for the first of the year. So, but folks in other parts of the, it's not the same thing, grits. Who said that?
Elderberry.
Yeah. But I mean, so they turned that corn into grits and had it with eggs and stuff, and you could bread it. Use cornbread to, some meat or some, you know,
No, no,
um, pork chops or.
I agree with all that. But in this last slide we looked at, um, it talks about it was continuously cultivated in the Amazon for thousands of years. But here, where did that part go? Um, very modern corn. Okay, so here they got corn. It says the corn from back then uh, was not very palatable. Its cob is small and has few kernels and are surrounded by tough casing. Now, they say that humans, these people who lived 10,000 years ago, said, wait a minute. You know, that plant out there with the hard kernels that taste like crap, that, is, out there growing like a weed, I think I'm going to select a few plants and try to crossbreed it and pollinate this one, and I'm going to collect the seeds. I'm going to plant it next year and then repollinate it and see if I can get it to grow bigger kernels. Are you kidding me? Do you think these people had these people didn't have reading, and they didn't have books and they didn't have much of anything, but yet they could figure out how to crossbreed and genetically modify corn?
Yeah, they were taught just like other folks were taught. They didn't have metal to smelt, but somebody taught them about plants.
And that's great. That's great and everything.
Agronomy, I guess, would be the word.
Yeah, but
agriculture and agronomy? I mean, because they also taught, how did they learn how to, crossbreed, chickens and things, and how did they crossbreed the potatoes?
Well, I can understand crossbreeding some animals. I take my best animal and I breed it with another animal, and then blah blah blah. But to crossbreed a plant with another plant and then try to get something, it just baffles my mind when they tell us these people are living in grass huts and hunting with spears and clubs. You see what I'm saying?
I do, but sometimes spears and clubs sometimes are all you need. But I don't know. I think it's by observation. And in the old stories, what's to say? We read stories before where the whoever it is comes in and teaches the people about corn or about squash and how to plant them and how to take care of them. So where did this person come from, right?
Yeah.
Always shows up. But to that point though, anybody for ancient aliens, but somebody taught them long time ago, especially in Peru and down there, how to do stuff. I mean, especially up in the higher elevations with all the terracing that they did and everything. I mean, somebody had to show them how to do that. So I think it would be easy, and with just observation myself and planting stuff in the garden, going, wow, if I take this and bend it over and shake it over here onto this ear, I wonder what would happen. So I could kind of see where, you could do that. I'm inquisitive that way over the years. So, I could see taking one, 2 stalks of corn and taking the top of one and putting it over and the other one and going like this a whole lot easier than I could see taking a couple of rocks and trying to make metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But like we studied the Indians in the Northeast, right? and they were talking about how they would grow their corn and their beans and their squash for, and then when the ground was all used up and the stuff wouldn't grow anymore, they would move to a new area because they didn't know anything about fertilization. And they didn't know, they couldn't understand why the soil just went barren, and they couldn't understand how to fertilize that. But and I'm thinking, if you can't figure out fertilization, but you can figure out how to manipulate genes and chromosomes and have plants that fertilize each other, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, the corn maiden lady way back when taught him how to plant the beans and the cucumbers in with the corn.
Well, and that's
So,
exactly it. See,
and so that
every one of those stories comes back about the three sisters, how you plant the corn and then you plant the beans and the squash around it, because each one does its own part to grow with the corn, right? You're right.
right.
And somebody told him, and every story says the corn maiden came and gave him this information. It wasn't like, yeah, we got our local witch doctor scientist over there, and he's manipulating the corn genes, and next year we're going to have a really good corn crop. He just hasn't figured out how to fertilize things yet, or or anything else. But he's really good at growing plants and being a horticulture, whatever it is.
Horticulturist.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you see, I think that like the Plains Indians were not so much on the planting because they had vast areas to be able to move around. But the East Coast folks, they have their little gardens and stuff.
Yes.
And
we did read where they would move every so many years because the ground wasn't,
well, kind of, folks rotate their crops now. At least they should.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is so none of it would make sense, especially if you're on the move. You're living in a tribe of 25 or 30, maybe even 100 people. Who's doing this? You would get the seeds. I could see you got the seeds, and then you would plant the best seeds, and they would grow the corn. But I'm thinking 10,000 years ago, these people were out there trying to make corn better, and the guys out there, and I just don't buy it. Somehow I don't buy it.
I think they had help all the way back then.
Yeah, they're out there, they're trying to figure out how to grow corn, but yet they're building giant pyramids too, and moving stones that are 10, 20 tons up mountains. I mean, it really, really, it's like they were really, really smart, and then something happened. They got really, really dumb,
Yep. They had to relearn. We keep relearning things.
Yeah, I just can't get over the fact that they knew how to, modify like weeds, what they would call weeds, and grow them into something great, and then build giant pyramids and haul big rocks up to the top of a mountaintop, and then carve it out of, carve these stones so it's so perfectly aligned with the moon and the stars, and yet they didn't even have telescopes. you know what I'm saying? That's just kind of, or a compass.
Well, now a compass is easy to make with a little water and a cork and some metal. So, but then they had compasses on ships long time ago. So, but anyway, but all of the other, yes. Yeah. Well, I just believe that whoever helped to move the rocks also taught them about agriculture. I mean, because with agriculture, they also taught them, terracing and how to store water and how to move water and, and all that kind of stuff. So whoever it was that taught them, and I think after the they moved out of the cities when the Mayans kind of lost their way. I think they also, for a lot of them, forgot how to farm.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I think the jungle took over their brains too.
could have. Yeah, like I said, they had this great technology apparently at some point in time, but when the Spanish came, there was no technology. That and see, that's the thing. You'd think that these Cortez or whatever would have pulled up and he would have seen them, building these pyramids and moving these rocks, and he would have said, "Holy cow, this is how you move these giant rocks." But yet you don't have horses, you don't have any way to do that. How are
Well,
you doing these things?
and one of the things that when the Spaniards got here, they didn't care about any of that. They wanted gold and silver.
Yes.
So they got all the indigenous people to stop doing whatever it was they was doing to go gold mining and silver mining,
This, this
and
is,
the whole economy turned around,
yes.
and
Oh,
what they knew as well.
Yeah. Oh, I get that and I understand that, but it just makes me wonder that they didn't see some of this stuff going on. There was no, wow, they're building this giant pyramid here, and they're moving these giant rocks with the thousands of men. You'd think they'd see some of that and write about it. I mean, it wasn't like they conquered one city; they conquered hundreds of cities over and over and over, and yet they never wrote about any of that.
No,
I
man,
mean,
and the thing is that even if they had, it got destroyed
yes,
because when the Spaniards came over, especially with the Jesuits, they were told to destroy everything, to burn everything, and so if there was something back in the day when Montezuma was around, they burned it all, they trashed it. But so when they killed all them people, also they killed all of the tradesmen who knew how to do it. So whether they had written it down or not, they massacred so many people that they just basically lost the trades. People just forgot how to move them rock the way they did. I mean, at least that's my humble opinion.
well, and that's it's all of our opinions because nobody really knows. I mean, it ain't like we can go back and look and say, "Oh, this is how they were doing it." Everybody, like I said, all these, even the guys talking about the corn, it says it's all a theory. This guy's researching. He says, "Well, we can look at the genes and see where they came from," but it still baffles me how they could take something that was not good to eat and didn't grow very, much kernels, and then genetically modify it by doing something to it to get a cob of corn out of it. That'd be like saying I'm going to take a spider plant and I'm going to grow bananas off of it, because they have those little things that look like bananas, but so I'm going to make that into a food. If I genetically crossbreed them enough, over a number of years I'll have little spider plant banana bushes.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, if you've ever grown okra, no one would ever expect you're going to eat that.
Never grew okra. Never grew
And
okra.
you're gonna boil it up with some. You're gonna eat that. So there are a lot of things that are grown that we eat that other folks like you folks up north, okra, what the hell is that? But okra and tomatoes is like yum 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 yum. And okra goes for a lot of good money, especially a bushel of the small ones, when they're fresh. But they're hard pick, boy, you got to cut them. So, but anyway, that's what drives the price up. But if you're like me, I just love fresh okra. You know, and once I had it when I moved up here from Florida, and oh man. So, but you know, but at first glance, you'd never think to eat it.
Never had okra. Yeah, see that's the thing. Now I can understand somebody finding a plant and saying, well, this is okay, you know, it's good to eat, and then we're going to grow more of it. But like I said, it's like potatoes, for instance. You know, it said that they had a toxin, and you know, they were, if you eat too many potatoes, you die. So why would you eat something and try to preserve it and do all this stuff to it with something that you could die from? Would that make any sense at all?
Yeah, because if you've got back in the pioneer days, they didn't have a lot of choices for food.
Well, yeah, and I get that. I'm just saying.
So it's like, you know, you'll take your chances with some taters, especially if you cook them up good, and you know, with a little bit of meat or something, and it'll stick to your stomach. So I think it was a matter of starving to death or eating taters. You know.
Well, no, they said they had a process to detoxify them before they ate them, and the thing is, well, who taught them this process of detoxifying them, you know, before they could eat them, you know, and then make them into that chuno, because once they made them into the chuno, it was free of toxins, and then they could eat it. But you know, who said, hey, look at this plant. If we just dry it and we pound it in, freeze dry it, and make it into a powder, it's good to eat. You know, I mean, it ain't like potatoes grow on top of the ground either. So you've got to dig them up, and then you got to look at it and you got to say, what could I do with this poisonous plant? You know what I mean? But I agree with you. Somebody came and said, listen, do this and you'll have plenty of food.
And make sure that you pass it down. Yeah. You know, that's a big thing. It's that whoever taught them, pass this along. This is how you do it, you know? And that's one of the things I think that if anything serious happens here in the United States, there are folks that, you know, that I would love to pass along some of the knowledge that I have and I try, but, you know, as far as gardening or whatever, you know, we was having a conversation the other day and I said, these young folks today wouldn't know how to do it. And I said, but when I was their age, when I was a youngin', you know, in my 20s, I was growing a garden because I didn't make much money, but I had property. And so I was trying to supplement our food income because there was no food stamps back then by having a garden, you know, but people don't look at it that way anymore.
Nope. They sure don't.
And I can't wait to get back out in my garden this year. I cut firewood tonight, and then before we opened up, before we came on, I slipped and fell on the floor and busted my ass. But, you know, I still can't believe I did that. I hurt my wrist. But anyway, you know, to go out and dig in the yard. Now, you know how it is, Robert. Do you use the tiller or do you have a tractor?
I got a tiller, big tiller, rear tire.
Yeah, tiller. So, but to go down in there, you know, to go down the rows with that tiller and till up that dirt, and you can smell that fresh dirt, and to know that you're going to go back in there and plant something, and you know, and pray over it and hope that it grows well, you know, and there ain't nothing like it.
That's right.
But for folks who've never put their hands in the dirt, you know, and there are a lot of people who, even country folk, who never really put their hands in the dirt. And I'm like, you know, okay.
Yeah, this is
I
true.
hope
This is true.
that you don't. I hope it doesn't become necessary for you. Is
Mm,
is my prayer.
yes,
But at the same time, I also hope that people will start growing little victory gardens again.
they might have to. Oh, yeah, exactly. So, what do you got for us tonight? I did my spiel. We learned all about potatoes and corn tonight and where it came from and how it affected. You got to, the thing is, we got to be thankful that we're living in this time where potatoes taste good. They're on the shelf. You can grow them in your backyard. They're easy to come by. And if you save them from year to year, you can keep growing the potatoes over and over and over and over and over. I do. I know I
Yep.
got some that I keep as seed potatoes and some that I eat, and I'll keep some for next year and I'll plant those too. And corn, it's great, especially in the summertime. They have some sweet corn. Learn how to freeze it or dry it or whatever you have to do, but you can make a lot of things doing from the corn. Once you shuck the corn, you got the cobs, and if you get cold in the winter and you got a stove, they burn really good.
Yep.
So there you go. Lots of stuff
Well,
to
and
do.
also, these old timers made cream corn too, which you can.
Yep. Cream corn can be good.
And they got these little, things that you push the cob through and takes all of the kernels off, and you got a bowl full of stuff. Next thing you know, you boil that up good and put it in some jars, and you got some good cream corn.
That's right. That
So,
is right.
that's another way, that they used to do it too, was but to can it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they never,
Absolutely.
boy, I'm just thinking about some of that homemade green corn. There is just something about it.
Oh yeah. Good
All right.
stuff.
Well, we got a story tonight that a young man is going to get rescued by a toad.
All
Not
right.
the Wyas, toad. And that's our hit. So give me just a second here. Let me get something to drink. Here we go back to two brothers. There's always two or three brothers living together or somebody, but anyway, I joke. So the name of this story is A Young Man Rescued by a Toad. And this is a Seneca Indian myth as we continue our journey on with these stories. Nazcawaya's is the toad. Two brothers lived together. The elder hunted but never brought home any game. The younger noticed that his brother's back was always bloody, as though he had been carrying freshly killed game. He couldn't understand this, so one day he followed his brother. Oh, hang on, y'all, I messed up. I lost my place. The younger noticed that his brother's back was always bloody, as though he had been carrying freshly killed game. He couldn't understand this, so one day he followed his brother, saw him kill a deer, throw it over his shoulder, and start for home. But he hadn't gone far when a woman approached from one side, took the deer, and carried it off. The next day, the younger brother went in the direction the woman had taken. He soon came to a house and going in found a young woman. She laughed and began to talk to him. After talking a while, he started for home. When he had gone some distance, he found that he was going back to the house that he had just left. As he turned to go in the opposite direction, his brother came up behind him and said, "Don't you know that there is a fish hook in your neck?" The elder brother took out the fish hook, stuck it in a bush, and said, "Your safety depends upon getting away from here as quickly as you can." He made his brother small, put him in his arrow, and saying, "When the arrow comes to the ground, get out of it and run for your life." He shot the arrow into the air. When the woman pulled on the hook and couldn't move it, she followed the line and found the hook in a bush. She was angry and said, "You cannot escape me in this way." She went to the young man's cabin. He wasn't there. She tracked him to her own house and then back to the bush, and looking up, she saw the trail of the arrow, and she followed it till she came to the place where the arrow fell. Then she ran on quickly. As the woman approached, the young man heard her steps, and pulling off his moccasins, he told them to run to the end of the world. And there, where he stood, he became a stump. The woman came to the stump, halted, and looking at it, said, "This stump is like a man." But the tracks go on, and she hurried away. The woman reached the end of the world, and there stood the moccasins. She rushed back to where she had seen the stump. It wasn't there, but she found fresh tracks and followed them. When the young man heard the woman coming, he took up a stone, threw it behind him, and said, "Let there be a high rock from one end of the world to the other." That minute, the rock was there. The woman came to the rock and could neither go through it nor over it, nor could she crawl under it. "I never heard of this rock," she said. "It can't go across the world. I'll go around it." She ran to the end of the world, went back and ran to the opposite end, but she couldn't get around the rock. And then going to the place she started from, she tried to break the rock by striking her head against it. The rock didn't break, but she struck her head such a blow that she fell back, apparently dead. After a long time, she opened her eyes and looked up. The rock had disappeared. Only a little stone lay there. "Oh, he is using his power," said the woman, and again she hurried after him. When the young man heard her coming, he took a pigeon feather out of his pocket and said, as he threw it behind him, "Let there be a pigeon roost across the world, and so many pigeons on it that their droppings will be so deep and high that nothing can get through or over them." The woman came to the roost, and when she couldn't get through the droppings, she said, "I never heard of a pigeon roost that went across the world. I'll go around it." She went to one end of the world and then to the other, but she couldn't go around the roost. Going back to the place she started from, she tried to break through with her head, but fell back apparently dead. After a long time, she opened her eyes and saw a small feather on the ground. The roost had disappeared. She was angrier than ever and ran on with greater speed. The young man came to a lake and saw people in the water playing tag. He halted and said, "Let one of those men become just like me. Let me become a stump." The woman came to the stump, but hearing the laughter of the people playing tag, she looked at them and saw that the man far out of the lake was the man she was following. The people, seeing the woman, called out, "Come and help us catch this man who outswims us." She sprang into the water, chased the man, and at last caught hold of him. That instant he took his own form. Then she knew that she had been fooled. She hurried back to the shore. The stump had disappeared. Again the woman followed the young man's tracks. As he heard her coming, a man stood in front of him and asked, "What is the trouble?" "A woman is chasing me." "I will help you. Get on my back," said the stranger, stooping down. "I'll throw you onto the side of a hill. Run along the hill till you are forced to descend." The stranger was Nusgawis, Toad. The young man sat on his back. Nusgawis stretched till his legs were of enormous length. Then he threw the young man off a great distance. The woman came to where the man met Nusgawis. The ground was soft and springy. As she tried to go forward, it rose up and threw her back. Looking around, she found that she was on the back of an enormous toad. She got off and, running in circles, hunted for the young man's tracks. And after a long time, she reached the hill. When the young man struck the hill, he jumped up and ran till he fell, and unable to get up, rolled down the hill, going so fast that he didn't realize anything till he struck a house, and a voice inside of it said, "Something is in our trap." A young woman came, lifted him out of the trap, and led him into the house. "What is the trouble?" asked an old woman who was there. "A woman is chasing me," said the young man. "I will help you." She filled a kettle with bear oil and put it over the fire. When the oil began to boil, she said, "Let this man's face look up from the bottom of the kettle." There was a noise outside. The door opened and the woman came in. "Where is the man I am following?" asked she. "He ran into this kettle," said the old woman. "That's the last we saw of him." The woman looked into the kettle, saw the man, and saying, "I knew that I should overtake you," she plunged into the kettle to seize him. The boiling oil killed her. The old woman called to the man and said, "The person who was chasing you is dead." Her daughter said, "This man will be my husband." After a time, the young man became the father of twin boys. When the boys began to run around, their father said to them, "You must go for your uncle." They started, and after traveling a long time, came to a house. In the house was an old man. One of the boys said to him, "Uncle, we have come for you." The man got ready and went with them. When they reached home, the younger brother greeted the elder and said, "Now you will always live with us." And so it was. The end.
Well, there you go.
How about that one?
That was good. And again, somebody got the kettle, somebody got boiled, somebody died.
Yeah, but nobody got their head chopped off.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, and there wasn't any giants in that one, but
And it's so funny. And then the old woman was there, and then, well, she just happened to have a daughter, and he married her, and they had children. Well,
when?
he must have not liked that first woman because he was running away from her. She must have been ugly as a. She must have been beaten with the ugly stick.
Yeah, and they don't say who she was, but apparently she all she wanted to do was chase him.
Yeah.
There didn't seem to be too much in that particular. There was no romance.
No romance.
Romance.
Yeah. I swear, I've watched a lot of movies, and I don't know if you ever see How the West Was Won with Jimmy Stewart. You ever see that movie? Okay. And
it's been a while, but yeah.
He's going down the river, and he lands at this place, and he sees this woman, and he's kind of like, whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And then about 2 hours later, he's like, oh, I feel for you. Oh, I'm trying to do Jimmy Stewart. I can't live without you. I love you. And he's like, he's like, oh, get out of here. First he tells her, no, I like being single. I like being all by myself. And then next thing you know, he's like, I can't live without you. You're the prettiest girl I've ever seen. And then he takes her for his wife. I'm thinking, is that how it went back in the day? Where you're going along, and all of a sudden you go, hey, there's a pretty girl. Oh, she's the most beautiful thing I ever seen. I'm just gonna go up to her and say, honey, you're the most beautiful girl I have ever seen. You want to get married? Have like 16 kids with me. I mean, really? Is that how it works?
You north end of a southbound cow.
Oh my gosh, I mean, oh well, maybe it was. I don't know. I didn't live back then, but skip the dating. Just skip right over that. Just I seen this girl. Next thing you know, we were married.
Well, back in the day, they bought wives, and they came out on trains, and so
the mail order bride.
That's what I was looking for. Mail order brides. So that's interesting.
It is. So
that these old geezers, come on, I ordered me a bride, and we've been writing back together for a year now, and you don't know what's going to come out, or if she's going to show up, and you done sent money back east, and and then they, you can write to the Chinese ladies now on the internet. Yeah. You too can write to a Korean girl, anyway. Still, after all this time, you can still get, a mail order bride.
Yeah.
Of sorts.
That is
so.
True.
I got an interesting spread going here tonight.
Uh-oh. What do you got?
Pulling cards. So since we got through a little early, then if I got more than one or two cards, then it won't hurt anybody's feelings. And this being the beginning of the year, I think a couple of these cards is appropriate. Now, it's interesting that 3 of them are upside down. That doesn't mean necessarily that that's bad, but there are 3 out of 4 of these that are upside down. So Buffalo was the first one that showed up. Ooh, and number 19 upside down. Well, here we go. For 2024, Buffalo is prayer in abundance. Buffalo, you bring us the gifts of life. Hear our prayers, smoke rising like the phoenix. We are reborn within the sacred words. In the Lakota tradition, it was the white buffalo calf woman who brought the sacred pipe to the people and taught them to pray. So it's much like how she came and taught them to pray, Robert. I would suggest that that person who came and taught them how to plant the corn.
Yep.
So the bowl of the pipe was the receptacle that held tobacco, an herb with male and female medicine. The stem of the pipe represented the male entering the female and seeding her and seeding life. In the coming together of male and female, the connection to the divine energy of the Great Spirit was made. Now we're talking about divine energy here, prayer and abundance here in the beginning of 2024. As the pipe was loaded with tobacco, every family in nature was asked to enter into the pipe and share its medicine as prayer and praise to the heavens. So as we sit here tonight, I'll hit my pipe and we can, imagine that our prayers are going up with the smoke, because the smoke is considered to be visual prayer and is very sacred and cleansing. All animals are sacred, but in many traditions, white buffalo is the most sacred. The appearance of white buffalo is a sign that prayers are being heard, that the sacred pipe is being honored, and that the promises of prophecy are being fulfilled, while buffalo signals a time of abundance and plenty. Buffalo was the major source of sustenance for the Plains Indians. It gave meat for food, hides for clothing, warm and soft buffalo robes for long winters, and hooves for glue. The medicine of buffalo is prayer, gratitude, and praise for that which has been received. Buffalo is prayer, gratitude, and praise for that which has been received. Buffalo medicine is also knowing that abundance is present when all relations are honored as sacred, and when gratitude is expressed to every living part of creation. Now, the contrary, to receive buffalo upside down is a signal that you have forgotten to seek help when it has been needed. If your hand is closed in a fist, you cannot receive the bounty of abundance. In understanding the significance of the reverse buffalo, you may well ask yourself, have I forgotten my eternal partner, the Great Spirit? Am I pushing myself too fast in the physical world and keeping myself from seeing the importance of reunion with the source of all life? Have I forgotten to honor the ways of others and to afford them the same respect that I wish to receive from myself? And going into 2024, that's always good to just be aware of. Am I feeling like my life is being used for the highest good at this time? And, this being at the first of the year and everybody, wanting to, New Year's resolutions. But maybe have I forgotten to be grateful for my life, my possessions, my talents, my abilities, my health, my family, or my friends. Be grateful for all of those things. Become buffalo and feel the smoke of prayer and praise and change your buffalo robe to white so that you may be an answer to the prayers of the world. So now there's buffalo. Now horse upside down. Now horse is all about horsepower. 35. And the power of the horse. Well, I went right to it. So if your ego has gotten in the way, you may have failed to notice the lack of respect you have been receiving from others. You may, on the other hand, be struggling with others who are abusing their power. Should I say something? Should I fight my desire to put them in their place? You may be asking. Remember the times in your own life when you have fallen out of grace with the Great Spirit, and then have compassion for the brothers or sisters who are now doing the same. If you are overpowering another or feeling overwhelmed, horse medicine in both the dignified and contrary position is a simple reminder of how to balance your shields. So the horse and there's a lot of good energy and horses flying through the air. Basically, it's the shamans who, that it was like as close to flying as possible by being on a horse. In allowing all pathways to have equal validity, you will see the power and glory of the unified family of humanity. And going into 2024, I think that's an important thing. This is the gift of the rainbow warrior or the warrioress. The eye has no place in the whirling rainbow that comes from the great mystery and is replaced by the universal we. All colors of the rainbow and all pathways are honored as one, like the buffalo. Now, the next one is elk. Right side up. I'm sorry, antelope. I said elk. I meant antelope. Antelope is action. And so in this beginning of the new year, rather than sitting just back and it's time to take action. Run, antelope, teach me of action and its pace. Quickly, so I may run with grace. When time was just beginning and the tribe of man was small, antelope saw that the two-leggeds were naked and hungry and in danger of extinction. The ancestors would soon vanish from Mother Earth if action were not taken. Antelope took action and came into the camp and calling all the two-leggeds together for counsel. Great mystery has sent me to teach you a lesson. The lesson is to do. You have no need to be fearful if you know what to do, and then you do it, Antelope said. And what shall we do? Asked the people. If you are naked and cold, you should kill me and take my coat to keep you warm. It is my gift to you. Do it. We will, said the people, but what of our hunger? We're starving. What can we do to save ourselves? If you are hungry, said Antelope, you should kill me and take my flesh, for it will nourish you and make you strong. It is my gift to you and a part of my evolution. It is my service. Do it. Antelope knew that humankind would survive the Ice Age if the people learned how to eat meat. Before the movement of the Great Ice Mountain, fruit and vegetables had been plentiful, and the two-leggeds had no need to eat of the bodies of their fellow creatures. The clans of the second world ate antelope, taking the instinct and wisdom of the four-leggeds into their bodies. The people learned through each creature's essence how to survive. They were taught never to waste or to take more than they needed. When they were in need, the two-leggeds knew how to take action. Now, the last one is upside down. So take action. Take action. 9. Butterfly is upside down. Number 9. Number 9. Number 9. Number 9. Number 9. Butterfly upside down. Butterfly is transformation. So that butterfly, it's that the butterfly comes in different stages. To use the butterfly medicine, you must astutely observe your position in the cycle of self-transformation. So are you in the egg stage? Is it just a thought or an idea? Is this the larva stage? So here we are at the beginning of the year, right? Do I need to make a decision? Is this the cocoon stage? Or is this the birth stage? So the upside down butterfly, reversed, your lesson is a simple one. There is a need for a change in your life that you are not recognizing. So maybe at the beginning of this year, it's a good time to change, right? There is a need for change in your life that you are not recognizing. This could be a possible need for freedom, for a vacation, or for a new job. You may believe that change is too difficult, and you may rule it out to preserve the comfort of old habits. And that's really easy to do, by the way. But in ruling out any possibility of change, you are saying that the courage of butterfly has been lost. Why does butterfly represent courage? Because there is a totally different world outside the cocoon, where the known realities of the chrysalis are no longer applicable. This new world demands that you use your newfound wings and fly. And besides that, it's beginning of the new year. So antelope is like, if you need something, get it, do it, take action. And the horse, pretty much the same thing. So, at the beginning of this new year, buffalo's giving you prayers in abundance. It's right there. So, I thank everybody for being here over the last few years. But, there are a lot of folks who want to, say that we're fixing to die at any minute and that the world is in peril and, something's going to come from outer space and blow us up or take us over or, turn us all into space monkeys or something. And so, we got to stop being fearful and look at this new year with all kinds of possibilities. So that's my 10 cents and I'm sticking to it.
That's right. That is so right. Well, and that's the thing. They've been saying that the apocalypse has been coming for the last umpteen, 1,000 years, and it never comes. There's changes, but it just keeps everybody living in fear. Like, the apocalypse is coming. Are you going to be raptured? You got to do this. You got to do that. And blah, blah, blah. And it's like, wait a minute. For you've been telling me that for 1,000 years. My great grandfather was probably coerced into doing whatever because you said the earth was going to end, the civilization world was going to blow up. You know what? Never happened. The biggest thing is just be prepared for whatever's coming, because more than likely it's going to be something and then it'll pass and then new things will happen. Am I right?
Yep. There's some interesting things that are sort of in the works, like, the UFO thing is like really high out there right now. And it's just going to be interesting to see how that comes out. And of course, there's election and stuff and the politics of stuff. I mean, in all of my years, this has got to be the craziest time with not allowing people to be on, on states, presidential thingies. I mean, this is nuts. I
Yeah.
and back in the 60s, it was pretty crazy. But we had the Democrats and we had the Republicans, and Tricky Dicky won the Republican side, but JFK, RFK, Senior got murdered, of course, back in the 60s. And God knows, I hope that nothing like that happens. But, there's some crazy mess going on with some of these people. And I say we all got to pray together, despite who you want to vote for. We need to pray that it goes smoothly, and we need to come together. And folks, yeah, I'm sorry, if you don't have an ID, you don't get to vote. That's all. Period.
I agree. I mean, it's a privilege to be a citizen of the United States, not just walk across the border and then say, I'm here, I want to vote and elect our politicians to rule over me. It's like, dude, you got to put in the time to get the privilege, right?
Yeah, I don't know if these people are coming here like with the purpose of voting, but once they get here and somebody says, well, hey, aren't you going to go vote? And they go, what do you mean? Well, come with me. Let's go down and vote. I want you to vote for this person,
Exactly.
and well, where's your ID? I don't know, no say, no habla inglés,
Yeah.
And it's like, but wait a minute now. I'm sorry. But I agree. When I was 18 years old growing up in Florida, I couldn't wait to vote because, it was a privilege.
Yeah.
But now folks are just like, so I have made it for myself. I have made voting a sacred honor to myself after all these years. And people here in the neighborhood kind of have that same feeling. So, but, other folks are just like, why vote? Who cares?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know they say, oh, it doesn't matter. And maybe it doesn't, but it's your privilege, take advantage of it.
It should be our privilege. So my prayers are that, we have common sense in 2024. And but we should stick to our guns. If you don't have an ID, you don't get to vote. And I'm sorry, but you've got every opportunity between now and then to get an ID. But if you don't, sorry, then don't feel badly because you can't vote. You need an ID.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I want to say is reserved to us Americans. By God, that's one of the few things that I can say, hey, listen, they want to give everything else away, but no, you're not giving away my vote.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, you got to have an ID for everything else. Well, why shouldn't you have an idea to do that? But it is what it is, and all we can do is keep pushing forward, and hopefully somebody gets a brain in their head and says, hey, I think that's the way it should be done. I like see, we do all this Indian study about what happened and how it happened, and we can look at history. And just like we're looking at the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans, all of these societies that were doing great things like discovering corn and cultivating it for 10,000 years, and potatoes and squash and beans and all of these other things, and building giant pyramids and calculating the stars and the moon and the moon they had two calendars, a moon calendar and a sun calendar, and they could do all these fantastic things. But guess what? In the end, their society crumbled. It crumbled. It couldn't withstand a few Spanish, conquistadors, and it couldn't. They didn't have any cure for diseases, so they were lacking in certain places. And you know what? They never made a really big comeback. They were taken over, and they're still there today, but they're governed by somebody else. And it makes you wonder, will that same thing happen to us? We got this great society. We're all knowledgeable. We're this, we're that. We got all these things going on for us. Will we crumble at the first thing that comes along, or will we step up to the plate? That's what I'm saying. We got to look at how are we alike them.
I'll tell you that here's an observation. Having known friends of mine that came from Mexico, and a friend of mine who went down to Mexico and worked in a gold mine, and then came back up here to the United States. And just so having had those folks to be able to chat with, and what's it like down there, and how is, what I mean? So, and chatting, oh, you should come down sometime and spend 6 months, and we'll do all these things. And I never got a chance to do it. But with that said, though, it's amazing, though, that, back in the day with all of the temples and everything, there was obviously a lot of artistry and hard work going on. They were industrious folks and built these temples, however, and whoever it was that might have helped them, but they did it. But these days, they're not necessarily known for building stuff. Yeah. They just kind of get along. They make little huts and little things there in the little towns, and and they build walls that are 4 foot thick because it's hot, and there are certain things that they do and they follow, but they're not into making big houses or building castles, or and in fact that businesses, for example, Ford, I'm sorry, it was Chrysler that moved an engine plant down there.
Yep.
And so one of the plant that I worked for, they moved it to Nogales, Mexico, right across the border in Texas, kind of thing. But they're not industrious enough to come up with their own plants.
Yeah.
Americans will move stuff down there and they'll go to work, but and they're industrious in that way. But my friend said that when he was working down there in Nogales, he said, they all knock off at about 12:30 and don't come back till 2. He said they all go on a siesta.
Yeah.
And he said, and that's the way it is down there. And he was asking people, say, where's the supervisor, and where's the guy that we're supposed to be monitoring these gauges every 30 minutes? And he goes, oh, they went on siesta. So the machine went crazy, and everything had to be calibrated, and they had to figure out how they would stagger their siestas. Wow. I mean, it was just like, but so to the point, though, they are not a bad peoples, but they're not industrious like American folks would be.
See,
In
so
that,
that makes me wonder. So you know, they had all this stuff going on, all these cities. What happened? You know, if you're an industrious people, you usually stay industrious, or you have that in your nature. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, but I think one of the reasons is that, you know, I don't know what the exchange rate is now, but it used to be 10-1. So
Yeah.
you'd make for $1 it was 10 pesos. And so you know, people would work for 30 pesos a day. That's $3.
Yep.
And so they come up here, and if they make $5 an hour, that's, you know, that's clear money. It's, you know, that's 500 pesos per hour. And they were used to making that per day, not per hour. So, you know, this concept of money. So if you stay in Mexico and you're working for, you know, 300 pesos a day, $3, you don't really have an incentive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think people want to come up here and cross the border because there's one hell of an incentive, you know, and they have the opportunity to do better and so forth. And money makes the world go round. That's one hell of an incentive. So, you know.
Yep. Yeah, this is true. This is true.
But they will go home and do it.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing is they're good workers.
Yep.
But you know, why aren't they good leaders? You know, I mean, because in order to build that giant temple, you had to have people that would say, "Listen, this is what we're going to do, and we're all going to do it together." Because obviously, they had plenty of workers to build it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So why aren't they building anything today? Why is it if you got a bunch of guys down there, they do work, but I'm sure back in those days they had to have breaks too, because you're talking about the same kind of climate where it's 110 degrees out and it's humid. You can't have the guy working in the middle of the day anyway.
Right.
So I'm sure that was a part of the culture, but
right, it was and is.
Yeah. And is, yeah. So that part hasn't changed. What's the factor that has changed? That's a big question. That's a good question.
So, but I know that the folks that have moved up here and have worked up here in the restaurants and stuff, they work their immortal tails off. As much as I hate the fact that the Mexicans who moved up here took my job as a carpenter away, because 2 or 3 of them, was what that they were working for the $10 an hour. That was my money. I was working for $10 an hour, but 3 of them would work for $10 an hour, and of course get 3 times as much done. You can't compete with that. Yeah. And that's what. But I gotta say that some of the folks who are still here in the construction business, they've been doing very well, and they've sort of been assimilated in a way. Now, I don't know whether or not they have decided to become citizens, but they're still here after 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. So in that respect, they're paying income tax because the people they're working for is going to take it out. And so, but so some of these folks aren't, they're not up here just running the system. But at the same time, if they can get something for free, they will.
Yeah.
And why not?
I agree. Well, it's a great show for our first new year. I tell you, this was a good one. The meat not the meat, but the potatoes and corn of it.
Damn, throwing little meat. And I hope that everybody, stays positive for as long as possible, with this year, and stop trying to buy into the, we're all going to die syndrome,
Right.
And even if something does come from outer space and lands in one of the oceans, like the cards say, we'll just wait until that moment comes,
Well,
and prepare and meet your neighbors and be friends.
well, and the thing is if those natives could survive on a few potatoes and a little bit of corn, maybe you should try to grow some yourself. Potato
Yep.
you could grow in your house. Put it in a
Yep.
bucket, put a little dirt in there, and it'll grow.
Yeah.
It's one of the easiest crops to grow. You don't
Yep.
need
You can grow it.
pollinations or anything.
Yeah. But one of the things that Mother Earth News, they had a thing way back in the day that you got a 5-gallon bucket, you put some taters in the bottom and a little bit of dirt, and as the plants come up through it, you add pine straw or some straw, and at the end of it all, it will make potatoes in the straw as it comes up. So you can have quite a few potatoes in a 5-gallon bucket. So, but to your point, it's not hard.
No,
so
it's
I
not
hope
hard.
folks do it, and have it's nice to be able to have fresh taters. I mean, it just is.
It is. And if Matt Damon can do it on the surface of Mars in a predicament,
we can do it here.
Here you go. Here he is growing the stuff. We got to do one last Matt Damon share, because that's just it. Look, there he is. If he can grow potatoes on the surface of Mars, you can grow them in a bucket on your back porch. You know what I mean?
Yep, and sweet potatoes aren't that hard to grow like that either. So just saying.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, it's a pretty simple plant to grow. I think that's why it's spread all over the world, so easily, because it was easy to grow. I mean, throw it in any dirt, any climate, pretty much it's going to grow with and then you're going to get something out of it. And if it frosts or freezes, the potato underneath is still good for a little while. You can
it'll come back out.
Yeah, it will. So it's all good. It's all good. Well, let's wrap this up before we hit our thing, and we'll be back next week. Remember, it's always a good week when you tune in to Native American Myths and Legends, right?
And we thank you always, and we continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. Keep up the good work, my friends.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And with that, remember, people, we got a big show on Saturday night, so tune in. But anyway, tune in then. We're going to have a good show. I don't even know who's coming on this week, but anyway, I'm working on some good stuff. And let's see what else is there. Remember, are you got a show tonight?
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah, okay, maybe. And I'll be on Nina's channel for Sunday Live come Sunday. So tune in for those days, and in between that time, go out and do something nice for your neighbor. Get to know them. If nothing else, wave at them. Start simple. And remember to get a potato. Try growing one. Let me know how it goes. Send me an email. Link is in the description below. So with that, be nice to somebody and be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love y'all. Peace, everybody.